What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Bob Arum. And Bob Arum says that he doubts that the upcoming potential fight, super fight between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, he doubts it will be in Saudi Arabia as the COVID-19 crisis continues. And this is what he explained. He said this. He says there was a lot of talk about Fury versus Joshua fighting in Saudi Arabia. But with oil selling almost $0 a barrel, how are the Saudis going to afford a big event? But for Fury, except for a Joshua fight, any Tyson Fury fight happens in the United States. The Joshua fight I could possibly see being in the UK or maybe some Middle East location, but we'll have to see. Again, Joshua still has a contract and has obligation to fight Pulev. So how's he going to get around that? Those are the words of Bob Arum. Oh, here he goes. He says something funny. He says that if the travel ban is lifted or is not as stringent, I would bring Fury over here to fight in a less expensive fight than a Wilder fight. Maybe we could even do a Wilder fight, but somehow we would have to get it financed. Okay. Well, let's forget about Wilder. Wilder is going to have his rematch. But with Saudi Arabia at hand, gas is oil is really cheap right now. Gas is very low. I haven't seen gas prices this low probably since 2002. That's big. You know what I mean? Like 2001, 2002, gas was probably this cheap. It didn't really start getting bad till 2005 and 6. Then 7 and 8, 9, it was terrible. But it's really low now. So Bob's really factoring in the fact that maybe the Saudis can't afford it after their number one stock, has dropped, okay? Their asset is oil. That's what they use for their revenue. That's what keeps them afloat, and they're not selling it. So how can they afford to fork over money to two fighters? Well, it's a very good question, and he says also Anthony Joshua is on contract and he still has to fight Pulev. So how's he going to get around that? Well, that's a good question too. But it's up to, I don't even know if it's up to Pulev, honestly, because even if Pulev took some step aside money, what would the IBF do? You know what I mean? I know the fighter a lot of times goes to the IBF and then the IBF does enforce certain things based on the fighter. That could be the case. But I do feel that he has to fight Pulev, And yes, Anthony Joshua's on contract, but remember something, people. Tyson Fury's also on contract. So you can't leave that out. And Tyson has, the promoter Bob Arum and the co-promoter Frank Warren. So he's still on the contract. I think this is now his This is his fourth fight. If he fights Wilder again, that's his fourth fight. So he still has 2 more fights on the contract himself. So both of these guys have contract obligations, mandatories for Anthony Joshua, and of course we have the upcoming fight with Wilder. So, but he said he could see the Joshua fight possibly being in the UK. But here's the thing about that. Don't speak too soon, because Tyson Fury's gave up his license in the UK because of all that mess that just all of a sudden, popped up into, just sprung into thin air, you know what I mean? So that may be a problem, maybe not, but that does give you something to look at, because you guys can remember Saudi Arabia wanted to host the fight, or the next Fury fight, and that was going to be with Joshua, and they're going to offer him like $400 million or something like that, some huge number for a big, massive fight to that magnitude. So, will it be the same now since the crisis is going on? Because no one's really traveling, no one's really doing too much of nothing these days, so will they still honor that? Because things change due to our economy, and our economy is weak right now, due to disease and all types of other craziness. But you know, it just does. It gives you something to think about with uh, Fury fighting Joshua in the UK. Maybe Joshua and Ruiz was probably the last opportunity, you know, to get some of that good Saudi money when the Saudi money was good. So, and it's again, it's just amazing how things change, you know, because that was going to be probably by far the biggest fight ever, especially with revenue and people getting it. That would bypass Manny and Floyd. I'm not sure about the sales, but if they were going to offer Tyson Fury $400 million a fight, that trumps Canelo, that trumps Floyd, that trumps Manny, that trumps Oscar, that trumps Mike, that trumps a lot of them. So it is a lot to deal with. If they're giving him 400, if they're splitting it, Floyd still wins. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Bob Arum's statements. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.